Trying to break through, a migrant caravan stuck at the border and wedged between politics.
I wish 20 years ago the county would have been doing a lot of the things that now we say they need to do.
Making their case to the voters, two candidates who want to be the next supervisor to represent San Diego's 4th District. Comedy and chaos take center stage in San Diego, the music and design of a Mozart classic. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Susan Murphy. Defying requests from Mexican authorities and threats from President Trump, migrants traveling in a mass caravan burst through a Guatemalan border fence today. About 50 managed to push their way through before Mexican officers unleashed pepper spray. A Tijuana-based activist was arrested while marching in solidarity with the caravan. Irineo Mujica remains in jail. KPBS reporter Jean Guerrero says Mexican prosecutors have not responded to requests for comment.
Trump says the caravan was organized by Democrats. A top Mexican diplomat says the caravan is politically motivated. They provided no evidence of that. Activists believe Irineo Mujica was arrested to paint the exodus as organized by outsiders. Mujica was in southern Mexico to protect the Hondurans from abuses once they arrived. Mujica's colleague, Alex Mensing, says the Hondurans are fleeing violence and poverty and a repressive government.
People are choosing of their own volition to leave. It happens every single day. Thousands of people flee Central America. The fact that they're doing it together is done for their own protection.
Mensing says the U.S. is responsible for Mexico's use of force against the asylum seekers, including tear gas, because Trump told Mexico to stop the caravan. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
There's a health update today from San Diego State University students who were recently vaccinated for meningitis. Walgreens says it used vaccines stored at the wrong temperature during 2 campus clinics. About 350 students are affected. Walgreens says it is reaching out to them to offer new vaccinations. The university held 2 vaccine clinics earlier this month after 2 students were hospitalized for meningococcal symptoms. The FAA and National Transportation Safety Board are investigating today's emergency landing on Interstate 8 in El Cajon. A flight instructor and student pilot were inside. No injuries were reported. The aircraft blocked several lanes until Caltrans workers rolled the plane over to the shoulder. An event aiming to get guns off San Diego streets is happening this weekend. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman says police are hoping people swap firearms for money.
On Saturday from 8 a.m. to noon, people can trade in unwanted guns for gift cards or skateboards. The buyback program is put on by the San Diego Police Department and the Sheriff's Department, plus the District Attorney's Office. The United African American Ministerial Council and the San Diego Training Center are also supporting the buyback event. It's being held on Saturday at the Encanto Southern Baptist Church near 61st and Imperial Avenue. Assault weapons can be traded in for a $200 gift card. All other guns, including handguns and shotguns, can be swapped for a $100 gift card, no questions asked. People attending the buyback program are asked to make sure that guns brought are unloaded and left in the trunk of a car. Now, the District Attorney's Office says each year around 300 firearms are collected through this event. The buyback program was started more than a decade ago after 2 teenagers were killed. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
One of the races that's attracting the most attention and the most money this election season is for the San Diego County Board of Supervisors. 2 candidates are competing to represent District 4. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says it's a partisan battle.
For the past 5 years, Republicans have held all 5 seats on the County Board of Supervisors. Ron Roberts was first elected to this district in 1994, and he's easily won every re-election. Now that he's termed out, Republicans and Democrats are fighting over who should replace him. First, let's go over what the County Board of Supervisors does. The biggest portion of its budget is in health and human services. That includes social welfare programs like Medi-Cal, food stamps, foster care, and mental health and addiction treatment. Another big portion of the county's budget is in public safety. That includes the county sheriff's department, which acts as the police force in much of the county, and the district attorney's office. The county board also has land use authority for the more than 500,000 people living outside the incorporated cities. This includes neighborhoods like Spring Valley, Fallbrook, and Ramona. The county board can zone for housing or businesses, and it can approve or reject new development. County supervisors can also play big roles in infrastructure and transportation planning through their seats on the boards of SANDAG and MTS. So who's running in District 4? One candidate is Nathan Fletcher.
You know, there's this great line that said the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. I wish 20 years ago the county would have been doing a lot of the things that now we say they need to do.
Fletcher is a Marine veteran and a former state assemblyman. He was a Republican in the Assembly, then briefly became an independent, but he's been a Democrat for more than 5 years and has been fully embraced by his party, with endorsements from Governor Jerry Brown and former Vice President Joe Biden. He says the county needs change.
But I think in this election we have the opportunity to bring someone who has governing experience, who's shown legislatively we can tackle big, difficult issues and deliver solutions, who's shown that outside of office, whether it's helping mental health treatment for our veterans or our deported veterans, but who comes in with that energy and drive to say we're going to move in a more progressive direction, and we're going to lead, and we're going to work with the state, and we're going to drive solutions in a meaningful and accountable way. And so I think that we need a new voice at the county, and I think it's time, after the last 30 years, that we really start moving our region in a different direction.
I've been working in this county for 35 years.
Bonnie Dumanis is the retired district attorney. She's a Republican and has been endorsed by Mayor Kevin Faulkner and District 4's current supervisor, Ron Roberts. But in a district where Democrats outnumber Republicans, she doesn't exactly advertise her party affiliation. She says she's got the professional and life experience to lead.
I put myself through college, I put myself through law school, and I started out as a junior typist and rose through the ranks until I got to the deputy DA. I was elected as a judge, and then I was elected as DA. And not only DA, but the first openly gay DA in the nation, and the first woman and openly gay DA here in San Diego. I've also been known as the most progressive in terms of criminal justice reform in the state of California. We have implemented and actually done bold programs. We started the first reentry program, that is taking people from prison into the community and giving them services so they turn their life around.
Now, the evidence suggests Fletcher is the one to beat in this race. He won the most votes in the June primary, and the County Democratic Party has spent more than $1 million to help elect him. The County Republican Party has spent less than a fifth of that on Dumanis. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
You can learn more about the candidates at kpbs.org/election. That includes our candidate interviews and the KPBS Voters Guide.
Gubernatorial candidates Gavin Newsom and John Cox on the California dream. Voters decide if San Diego Superior Court Judge Gary Creep keeps his job. And another caravan of migrants is making its way north. Join us for the KPBS Roundtable tonight at 8:30.
More members of the military at risk of losing their security clearance. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says the Pentagon is changing how it will monitor financials for security clearances.
So service members come from every state. They come from every class, from every demographic.
Under the old system, military contractors and service members received a credit check when their security clearance was up for renewal. Now, the Pentagon will continuously monitor the credit of people who have security clearances.
So this is where we receive our donated goods.
Tony Teravainen runs the nonprofit STEP, which works with the local military families in financial distress. He says all of the financial struggles of average Americans are made worse in the military.
We further stress their finances, right? We help them move their homes every 3 years. They're deployed more than a third of the time. Half of them earn a low-income wage.
Credit issues are already a major reason people lose their security clearance.
If you're living beyond your means regularly or you have a large debt, you're under a personal crisis and personal stress. And if you were potentially approached by somebody that would be in a position to help you pay off these debts or help supply you with some additional dollars, you might be more inclined to go that direction.
The Department of Defense is taking over the application process to clear away a backlog. The 3-year transition began in June. In August, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau sent out an alert warning service members about the new rules.
They have a lot to work out as far as what is good and what is bad in somebody's financial history, which would make them a financial risk for security clearance.
Tarabanian says supervisors at local bases are already asking him for advice on ways to help sailors and Marines who may be at risk under the new system. Continuous monitoring could be a good thing, he says, if it forces military families to look at their finances before they're in crisis. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Sears declares bankruptcy while Netflix reports massive growth. For this week's Friday Business Report, I spoke with SDSU marketing professor and co-founder of Bottom Line Marketing, Miro Kopik. Thanks for being here, Miro. So we heard that Sears has filed for bankruptcy. It's been struggling for years, but it's been a beloved retailer for the past 100 years. Is this the latest casualty of Amazon and other online shopping?
You know, it started way before Amazon and online shopping. Sears is a casualty of their own making. They could have been a great retailer. They really struggled because they got out of retailing and bought brokerage firms, real estate firms. They launched the Discover card. All those resources that could have gone into making the retailer great went into other stuff. And when they sold all of that, there wasn't enough cash flow to really upgrade the stores, make them experience for consumers much better. And so they started getting eaten alive by mass merchants like Walmart and Target, specialty retailers, and then lastly, Amazon put the nail in the coffin. Because if we think about it, Sears was the Amazon of its day. It sold everything from toys to books to apparel, even to home building kits. So it's very sad, but with the bankruptcy, they're going to sell 142 stores, and they're going to actually trying to make it through the holiday season. And the decision for Sears is they have to either sell Kmart and focus on Sears and make a good go at it. Otherwise, it could be like Toys R Us.
Okay, and our next topic, Netflix. This weekend is coming up. Lots of us will be sitting around at home watching some Netflix. They were in the news this week with their quarterly earnings. What are they doing right, and what does their success mean for investors and consumers?
You know, Netflix really drove a 540-point rally on Tuesday because they announced subscriber growth that far exceeded expectations. They're looking at 9 million subscribers in the fourth quarter. And they can do this because they've been at the forefront of the biggest trend of people cutting the cord on cable and also millennial viewing who look at streaming media. But they have competition. So Amazon, Apple, even Walmart is getting into the game. So it's a big deal.
And does this rally that Netflix drove mean that the market is headed back up?
You know, sadly, the answer is no. The real issue behind 1,300-point decline last week and kind of the weirdness in the last couple of days is really threefold. Number one, the interest rate increases by the Fed are spooking the markets. And not only the Fed, but all central banks around the world. So easy money is a thing of the past. Number two, people are concerned about inflation because inflation means that businesses are going to have much more costs to contend with and profits are going to be down. And the last piece is international trade, not to be underscored. China, for the first time, announced very weak growth, 6.5% the other day. That's over 1.5 points less than their best over the last decade. So this is stuff that we have to look at for the next 3 to 6 months because it's not over yet.
Okay, Miro Kopik, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Feeling lucky? Time is running out to buy a winning ticket for the largest Mega Millions jackpot ever. Tonight's grand prize is $1 billion. Mega Millions signs in San Diego couldn't keep up. This is currently the second largest lottery prize in U.S. history. The largest jackpot was back in 2016. The power prize added up to $1.5 billion. Tank top weather in San Diego this weekend. Daji Azwad has more in tonight's forecast.
As we continue through this Friday, it's still going to be on the warm side, as you see on our satellite and radar. No moisture to come cool us down. We will notice temperatures returning a bit more average into your extended forecast. Tonight, we're cooling down into the 50s for Oceanside, 61 in Borrego Springs, and 46 in Mount Laguna. Here in San Diego, it is clear and cooling down to 64 degrees. A few clouds out there, but overall a very tranquil night. We'll continue to see this into your Saturday. That offshore flow going to continue still keep things very warm. Some isolated showers out towards Arizona there as some moisture peaks in from the south central, but not going to make its way in towards Southern California at this time. Now, we are still calling for a red flag warning due to that offshore flow at least until tomorrow morning. So Mount Laguna, something to keep in mind. Things are dry, low humidity, and no moisture in sight. We're looking at plenty of sun for tomorrow in Oceanside with a high of 83, 90 in Borrego Springs, and 65 in Mount Laguna, topping off at 81 in San Diego. And we're keeping things dry for early next week as well. The difference will be a return of some clouds out there for the morning and the nighttime hours. Coast, we're cooling back down into the 70s here, getting a little bit closer to average, not as warm, no longer in the 80s, and then in the lower 80s for inland areas. Plenty of sunshine, not only there, but in the mountains into the 60s for your extended forecast, and looking dry and sunny for the deserts. Reporting for KPBS News, I'm your meteorologist, Daji Aswad. Back to you, Susan.
Fans cheered on cyclists wrapping up an anniversary ride in La Jolla Shores today. Mayor Kevin Faulconer and former police chief Shelley Zimmerman finished a 740-mile trip from Sausalito to San Diego. They joined hundreds of cyclists in raising money to help challenged athletes.
I'm a little tired right now. 100 miles a day is it's a lot. But
are you getting flats out there?
I got one.
Yeah, you had to change it?
Yeah,
Nice.
But I only got one in the whole coast, so I'll take that, my friend. Yeah.
The Challenged Athlete Foundation helps people with physical challenges pursue active lifestyles.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, charges against a Russian citizen for conspiring to interfere in this year's midterm elections. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
San Diego Opera opens its production of Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro on Saturday. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando goes behind the scenes to reveal what audiences don't usually get to see.
In order for this to happen on stage, this has to happen backstage.
It's 10 minutes to the top of Act 3, 10 minutes.
That's San Diego Opera stage manager Mary Yankee Peters.
Primarily during the show, I'm the stage manager, which means I call all of the cues. There's a lot of prep work that goes into rehearsals and scheduling before then, but when I get to this point, I'm calling the cues. So whenever you see scenery moving or lights changing, I don't do anything. It's just that nobody else does it till I say the word go.
And I go.
And that's John David Peters, Mary's husband, and San Diego Opera technical director and head carpenter.
Basically, I'm working on the stage with the crew, involved in assembling all of the scenery and getting it ready to load in and put it together, and make sure that everything that Mary wants us to do gets done.
The call is 10 minutes.
This show came in two 53-foot trailers. In addition to the two 53-foot trailers, we brought in 4 53-foot trailers of gear, lighting and masking and all of the other stuff to put together with it. The crew spent a solid 3 days getting everything loaded into the theater and assembled in order to have our first on-stage rehearsal.
And that's when director Stephen Lawless discovered something else about the set.
When we started in here, the first rehearsal in here, I turned to the sound guy and said, do you have sound enhancement? Because it sounds great from the stage. And he said, no, it's the walls. The walls bounce the sound back into the acoustic of the auditorium, which is fantastic.
But first and foremost, the set has to serve the story and support the director's vision.
It had to be something that was flexible, that moved. And I also wanted to have something that didn't conform to, as it were, the 4-act format of the original piece. I wanted something that moved and changed and had fluidity within it, so we don't just sit in one environment. So we came up with this idea of these 2 walls that have double sides on them that move and change, so you can go from inside to outside.
It's a complicated piece, and it's kind of deceiving because it doesn't look like it is. You look at it, it's two simple units that change around to a few different positions. But there are, I counted them today because I couldn't believe it, there are actually 50 different doors. So if you take the permutations of 50, it's a mind-boggling number of things that can be done with the doors, and then the units themselves have like 8 different positions. And all of that's done in view of the audience, live. A lot of things to pay attention to on them.
And one of the ideas I wanted to start with was this idea that we started with the family tree. You see the generations of privilege that Figaro and the chorus, the servants, have to fight against.
That fight between the classes was key to Evan Hughes, who sings the role of Figaro in Mozart's opera.
Figaro is a very important piece in opera because it was considered the play by Beaumarchais and then subsequently the opera was a catalyst for the French Revolution, and it was about the working class overcoming the oppression of the aristocracy. So Figaro represents that working class character. He represents that normal human being who is being pressed down and who rises up through his intellect, through his humanity. So he wins through his wit and through his heart. And so while it is masquerading as a comedy, it's really about intensely human things, very real things, and quite dramatic, serious things.
It has everything. It's funny, it's serious, it has the potential for tragedy, it's political, and it's just brilliantly written. I mean, there's nothing else like it.
Join San Diego Opera for its production of The Marriage of Figaro, a comedy that sparked a revolution. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Halloween is coming a little early to North County. KPBS producer Nico Will says a program at the Escondido Library this weekend highlights some of the institution's history with a spooky twist.
So the Escondido Library is similar to other libraries in many ways, but one quirk makes it stand out. It's haunted. And instead of hiding that fact from patrons, the library staff has a decidedly whatever brings them in the door attitude about the whole thing.
There's been some concern maybe people are going to want to come amateur ghost hunt here at the library, and quite frankly, as long as people are not disruptive or, hurtful to other patrons or to the library property, I invite people to come in for different reasons.
Senior librarian Monica Barrett says the library has a history of disembodied voices, books inexplicably falling off the shelves, and elevators going up and down unprompted.
We had one night where staff reported that they saw someone walking behind another staff member after closing, and they were frustrated because they're like, we're supposed to be closing the library, we're not supposed to have anybody in here, please get that person out so we can go home. And it turned out they checked the camera, the security guard and the staff member who thought that, they thought someone was with him, went around and checked, and there was nobody there.
Do we have any children here?
Barrett has enlisted the help of a well-known spirit investigator.
I know that many people are laid to rest here.
Nicole Strickland is a founder of the San Diego Paranormal Research Society.
We're paranormal researchers. We're not out, we're not thrill-seeking. We're not out, trouncing around some cemetery at night looking for thrills. We are interested legitimately in the research end of it.
To that end, Strickland and her team use video and still cameras with full spectrum and infrared capabilities, audio recorders, motion and temperature sensors,
a spirit box,
and some specialized tools of her trade.
We'll use a spirit box, and that device is designed to scan the AM and FM bands of a radio at a very super high speed. So it's thought that energies can use the frequency of that device and communicate with us in real time.
You can hear her at the beginning of the clip asking the question.
Are you present with us now? Can you let us know, please? Yes, I thought, yeah.
Who gives the answer is anyone's guess.
Can you point the rods to where you're standing?
Strickland investigates historical sites, private homes, and businesses, but it's not how she makes her living. She does it in her free time between her writing and teaching careers.
Paranormal research typically is voluntary, so we don't charge for our services. I mean, we're not going to charge for something that we can't prove.
She started investigating about 20 years ago.
My grandmother, Helen Lopinto, died of congestive heart failure when I was in college at the University of Arizona in 2001, and I had a really profound experience with the spirit of, or with her spirit, if you will. And so that's actually what catapulted me into wanting to investigate the unknowns.
Okay, side note here. For those watching who don't believe any of this, Strickland says that's fine. Some things are just unknowable.
What exactly are ghosts and spirits? I don't know if we're ever going to find the answer to that. I think it's supposed to remain elusive, so to speak.
And whether you believe in ghosts or not, Strickland's work has helped her come to terms with the inevitable.
My work as a paranormal researcher has helped me to understand more about the death process and more about losing a loved one. I feel that I'm more prepared when, let's say, my mom and my dad pass away, more so than I would have been 20 years ago before working in this field. I think that, you know, by understanding the process, the dying process and all that, it does provide a comfort. It does provide a sense of peace.
This weekend, Strickland and her team will reveal the results of their investigation of the Escondido Library. It's part of a program called Booze and Booze, get it? And it's sponsored by local brewery Battle Mage. So yes, there will be beer. Whether you believe there will be spirits is up to you. Nico Will, KPBS News.
The Escondido Library's Booze and Booze event is scheduled for tomorrow from 2 to 4 p.m. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening.